Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having an awesome start to your week and a great Tuesday so far. Starting this a little late because I couldn't find my phone tripod. Couldn't find it anywhere. But turns out it was exactly where I was looking, just hidden behind some tripods. So what does that say about me that I was staring at it for like 5 minutes and was literally looking right at it? Oh well, we got it. We're here. Fun week of releases this week. Actually, I wish I had them on my desk, but I don't. But we have MVP. The long-awaited release is here. The Fission Trail, the Plasma Dimension, the Prism Neutron Trance, the Eclipse Insanity. All those pre-orders are shipping out this week. And then on the 20th, which is, what is that, Friday? Friday. Is when the rest of them will drop. So we will have some that'll hit the site. It won't be a crazy amount, but some will hit the site. But if you pre-ordered it, that'll be going out. We also this week have in 2 days, the Zero Pro plastic from Latitude 64 dropping. But Zero Pro Peak, Zero Pro Pure, Zero Pro Hope. I actually put a Zero Pro Peak in my bag. Super like grippy, stiff plastic. It feels awesome. So I put one of those in my bag. Really excited about that. And then tomorrow we have the Gavin Babcock Swirly S-Line CD1s as well as the C-Line MD5s dropping. And then we also this week are going to be uploading Halo Star It's, which I might have to get my hand on one of those. That sounds awesome. And Halo Star Wombat 3s. Both of those sound incredible. Shay said, don't sleep on the Fission Trail. It's not stupidly understable like we feared, and it absolutely bombs. So we'll have to check that out. I haven't had a chance to throw one yet. We'll throw it this week for like promotional purposes on Friday. So exciting stuff about that. If you didn't check it out yet, I posted a video this week about the history of this disc right here, the Crystal Raptor, and how it saved Foundation. Video's doing very well, so thank y'all. Seems like most people enjoyed it. But I had a lot of fun retelling the story, so gonna be filming another one here soon. It seems like it was pretty split in the comments. What's funny is there's some people in the comments that want stories about stuff that I've like already told on Coffee Break, honestly several times. And most of it's just like I couldn't make a full video out of it. So it's just stuff that seems like a bigger deal when it happened that actually wasn't that big of a deal. So a lot of people want the origin stories of how like Trevor, Connor, Silas, Jason, Brad became employees at Foundation. So maybe that's something we'll do. I'm not sure. Carlos, the MD5 I think actually drops tomorrow, I think. Adam said the Fission time lapse is way too domey for my liking. Is that the case for the trail? Yes, the trail is very domey. So I don't know if it's too domey for your liking, but the Fission trails are very domey. So, yeah. Also happening. So we're internally having our final imposter planning meeting, putting a bow on this thing today, which is super exciting. And then we're gonna be filming that 3 weeks out. I think we're 3 weeks out from filming that. So that's super, super exciting. Next week, we're going to be heading out to Des Moines for the Discmania Challenge. So if you're going to be there, come say what's up. Make sure you buy tickets for the Creator Challenge. It's going on Thursday. Brody and I are a team. Paul, Ulibarri, and Trevor are a team. Gannon Burr's playing in it. Jay Millie's playing in it. Simon's playing in it, of course. I'm trying to think of the other creators. There's a bunch of people playing in it. So it's going to be an absolute blast. So if you're in that area, make sure you're checking that out. I think it's like $10 to come watch on Thursday. Yeah, it's very, very excited about that. If you're not from the area, you can actually watch it for free on the Disc Golf Pro Tours YouTube channel. It's going to be streamed live on YouTube. So that's going to be a blast as well. I do have to make Trevor's patch for his bag. I've landed on, so this is from a punishment we did a little bit ago where basically whoever lost the punishment, the other person, or whoever lost the round, the other person got to design a patch to go on their Velcro that they had to wear during the Creator Challenge. So the patch I've decided to put on, I think, is going to really hit Trevor. Because I was trying, like, if we do something really outlandish, neither of us are going to care. Like, it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. So we had to do something that was just believable enough that they could put on their own bag that would be embarrassing. So what I decided to do is I'm going to put a QR code in the middle that takes you to, like, Trevor's social medias. And then on one side, I'm going to put his Instagram following count. And on the other side, I'm going to put his YouTube follower count. Because that's just cringy. There's no way around it. Like, that's just a tough look to be, like, putting, like, oh, Instagram, I don't know what he has on Instagram. We'll call it, like, 15,000 followers. YouTube, I have 30-some thousand subscribers. Scan the QR. Because he has to carry that through the airport, too. And, like, that's something where it looks like Trevor just put it on there to kind of, like, brag and be like, oh, look at me. And so that's going to be a tough one. So I think that's what I landed on, because most of the other ones, like, he just wouldn't care. But yeah, I think that's going to be a fun one. So, but next week we're flying out for that. So we'll see y'all in Des Moines, hopefully. And then the other fun thing that's happening this week, we shot yesterday, was my another attempt at breaking 100 in golf. So that comes out on Saturday on our Foundation Golf channel. And obviously I'm not going to spoil it, but it's just a very up and down, most unpredictable golf round you've ever watched. I guarantee that. You will not know what's coming next at any point, because I didn't know what the heck was coming next at any point. So that's I'm really excited for that. I think y'all are going to absolutely love that video. It's super entertaining from beginning to the end. So yeah, excited about that. That's on Saturday. So a lot of fun stuff going on at Foundation. But let's get into a little Q&A section here, and crank through this. I've seen some coming in. There's some good suggestions on, well, mostly fake suggestions, but if you have suggestions on what you want the next, like, storytelling video about Foundation, like I did this one, to be, feel free to throw those in the comments. So far we have how Trevor almost quit because his slammer was put in ranch. He gave full consent for me to put that slammer in ranch. I texted him. I was like, hey, I think it'll be funny. This is the idea I have. And he was like, yeah, do it. So that was just kind of fake beef. It was a real reaction in the fact that, like, he couldn't hold it because it smelled so much like ranch. That whole part was real, but he told me to do it. So that is, completely fine. Shay also said how Trevor almost ended Foundation by stealing a rock from the used bin. That was a tough stretch there. What's funny is we've referenced that a bunch, and it was basically, like, I think all we ever made out of it was, like, a story post we talked about on some podcasts, and then we had the video of me getting his entire bag out of my ceiling. So it's, yeah, very funny. But we never really made much content out of that. I do think that's one part where, as Foundation grows, there's a big gap in, or because it's kind of what I'm trying to backtrack and do is, like, if you, like, Barstool Sports is a great example. They do this where they have something called stool scenes. And essentially what stool scenes is basically, it's one person's job to create and produce stool scenes. And I think there's actually a team of them, but it's basically, that's what they do. And they just vlog what's going on in Barstool. So you get all of the, like, workplace drama between people, all the little side stories, like Trevor didn't find it. That's the important part here. An employee finds a rock from the used section that Trevor then takes without putting a disc in, and next thing you know, we have this whole, like, thing going back and forth that lasted for days, and it was a whole Twitter beef. Like, that type stuff would make for really good vlog content, but right now it's just, like, there's no one to shoot that consistently, and there's only 4 of us over here and then 2 of us at the warehouse, and so I'm trying to, like, go backwards, and I wish I would have documented more of what we were doing when we first started the company. I wish I would have just vlogged more. So that's kind of the intent behind, this storytelling piece, and hopefully a few more, is to kind of go back and document that. And then I'm trying to be better about, when there are bigger things going on at Foundation, to kind of vlog the behind the scenes of, okay, this is why we're doing this, is how we're doing what. Because I think a lot of people think Foundation's a lot bigger than it is. In general, I think even within the space, like other retailers probably think we're a bigger retailer than we are. Like, the only thing that you can really see how big Foundation is our YouTube channel. but that's the biggest piece of foundation, right? Like that's the most public front facing. Like, yes, we have a large disc golf YouTube channel, but that doesn't always relate to everything else. So I think that a lot of people just think foundation's way bigger than we are. Like, we literally have 6 full-time employees, which, don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of what we've built here, and that is bigger than I ever thought we would be. We have 6 full-time employees, and I think an additional 5 to 7, it rotates, part-time employees. But those 5 to 7 part-time employees work basically like we have one more full-time employee, maybe a full-time and a half employee, because one of them works at the warehouse pretty much always, and the other ones just kind of rotate 1 or 2 shifts at the retail store a week. So, like, we're not that big is basically what I'm trying to say there. And so I think that sometimes people think we are. So I want to peel the curtain back a little bit and just show like these different moments of Foundation's history, and also document what's going on now. Because I think it helps people kind of have a better understanding of who they're buying from, who they're supporting when they're watching YouTube videos, when you're watching, these live streams, all that stuff, and makes you feel more tied to Foundation. Because I think it gives Foundation more of a personality. It gives more of like, more about the brand. So then you can choose more, so you have more information to decide whether you truly like our brand or you don't. So I wish that we could do some type of like continuous vlog where like every week we're documenting what's going on, because I think there's a lot of really funny moments that just get missed, and a lot of like stuff that would make good content that just never gets seen. But it's just like, are we really going to tell someone that like, hey, this is a part of your job is to vlog, and you just have to like drop everything, and like that doesn't make sense yet. We also don't have a place for it to live, but hopefully one day Foundation gets big enough, has enough personalities, has enough different branches and brands that we can have like a consistent place where all of that comes together, and there's enough going on that we can have that type of like behind the scenes vlog going. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, I don't even know what fully got me on that rant. Oh, I see Joe Sema's watching. I got to shout him out. Joe Sema just sent me. Look at this thing. Here it is, back in my hands. One of the limited edition Big Z Zeus's. Joe, I cannot thank you enough. This is in pristine condition, brand new. I'm very excited about it. It's not going to fly, obviously, as flippy as mine, because mine was in my bag for a long time. But I now get to start the cycle over. So I have a Big Z Zeus again. And obviously this is the limited edition Big Z Zeus, because obviously I could go grab a stock Big Z Zeus, but they're just not the same. So super excited about that. So thank you, Joe, for sending this. He also sent this to Trevor. Very kind and thoughtful. I really, really appreciate that. Hopefully you're still watching. I just saw where you had popped in, so hopefully you still see it. But thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Here's a good question. I think a lot of people probably wonder this. Jay Klink said, is the retail store worth it for you? Would it make sense to put a retail store in the Dallas-Fort Worth area if you had the opportunity? So our retail store in Lynchburg is worth it for us, yes. Mainly because it's Foundation's headquarters, so we're able to operate out of the back, and our media side more than covers the rent of our retail space. Sorry, this camera is in frame and making my webcam not focus. So it basically like cuts down where the only expense we have to cover for a retail store in Lynchburg is basically just the employees running it. And so that makes it very easy to run a retail store here. Could it make sense elsewhere? Yes. But it's just not something we're interested in right now, because I think there's a lot of other areas of growth that we can do more impact for the sport. And we can have bigger growth opportunities for Foundation as a whole in the online and content space, that I think we can have more impact there. And we're better at that. We're just better at that than we are at the in-person side. And so would it make sense? Like, it financially could make sense. The other thing is, like, we had a store in Charleston that ended up, for a bunch of external reasons, really not working out at the end of the day. But what we learned through that store is we want to be able to have the control. If we ever have another in-person store, we want to have the control and the full say of us owning and operating it. But the problem is, if let's say we were owning and operating one in Dallas, we can't be in the Dallas community, right? Like, Brody's there, so maybe like Tampa would be a better option, because Brody obviously is in Dallas. But so like, let's say Tampa, if we were to open one in Tampa, Florida, we can't be there. So we would have people owning and operating it, but it's a lot different than like what makes a lot of the local stores thrive is you have the like head of the club start this store and everyone already loves them. They're already running all these tournaments. There's already all these connections, so everyone wants to back them. And they already have all the connections with the parks and rec departments and all of that to run the tournaments that make an in-person store. Because like if we didn't have the media side and foundation, because like a big part of foundation's retail store revenue locally is disc golf tourism, which sounds crazy, but it's like it's not. Like every week people are coming in from out of town to play the courses they see in foundation videos and stop by the foundation store every week throughout the year. And there's times where it gets busier, times where it gets slower, but every week throughout the year someone's coming through the door that is here from some other state to play our local courses and see the foundation store. So that allows us to really have a lot more traffic here. But if you're just opening a disc golf store, like one of the keys, and this is what we originally did, is to run local tournaments, to run local leagues, stuff like that, because then you can guarantee you're going to have 50, 70 disc golfers in one place and you're vending there. And like that can drive a lot of revenue, build a lot of community. And we couldn't do that in another area because we're not there. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm just not super interested in that model because I think it's a lot of work for the work to return ratio. We have a lot of other avenues that we can put in that amount of work with a much greater return and a much greater impact on the sport, the way we operate. And so I'm glad people are doing it because I think the local stores are very crucial to disc golf, but it's just not something that we're interested in, if that makes sense. So oh, here's an interesting one. Throw Buddha said, Throw Buddha 1185. Good morning, Hunter. Did I completely miss an opportunity for the Brody Rocket Roach? No more restocks. I think so, unfortunately. The Brody Swirl Roaches, which I don't know if they still make those. I think do we still have them? We had some. Let me look this up for you. The Brody Swirl Roaches, though, are the same plastic. Brody Roach. So we have the OG Roach. It looks like the Brody Swirl Roaches were out of stock on. Unless are these the swirl ones? No, these are rubber blends. So we don't have any of the swirl ones. But if you can find a Brody Swirl Roach, then that's the same disc at least. Like that's the same as the Rocket Roach from what I remember because it's just putter blend swirl. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna do any more of the Rocket Roaches. That was 3 years ago that we did those, I think. So I don't think we're gonna bring it back, unfortunately. Rolling Game said, do we have any Atlas used or return bags you'd sell for below MSRP? I have some used ones, but typically what we do is we'll get some that have like manufacturing defects or something, like the zipper doesn't zip all the way up on one things. The stitching's wrong somewhere, whatever. They're really small details. And once we have enough of those, we release them on the site below MSRP as our, typically they're like Trash Panda collab bags. Because instead of like other companies would do, which is just throw them in the waste bin and factor that in as waste, we basically just let people know, hey, this is what is wrong with these bags. There's like it's going to function completely fine, similar to factory seconds. So that's one way to get them for below MSRP, but I don't know how often those happen. I guess I don't know how often we have those. So Jippy Lip apparently runs a disc golf store. Where's your store located? He said he's owned a store for 5 years and never ran a tournament or event. You're missing out on a lot of revenue and community engagement there. But yeah, Well, he said disc golf tourism is big for your store too. So what course are you near? I'm curious. Brody said that after the next disc golf whatnot stream, the disc golf streams will move to Foundation. How did y'all come to this conclusion? So right now, Brody's selling off his old collection, like just discs that he's never going to use. So those are like his personal discs, similar to if I went live on whatnot and sold my personal discs, then that would be on my whatnot. But the next step, he's going to be selling, like we're going to send him discs so that we'll rotate where I do a whatnot stream and then Brody does a whatnot stream and back and forth. And when that happens and it's Foundation discs, then that'll be on Foundation's whatnot, if that makes sense. So that's how he came to that conclusion. Right now he's selling his stuff, but once he starts selling Foundation stuff, that'll be different. So let's see. Any other ones on? Jay Gavin said, do you guys plan on venturing out to other tournaments for vending, like D-Glow or Ledgestone? Maybe. We went to Music City Open. We go to USDGC every year, and then we're fortunate enough to have some in our backyard, like Worlds last year, the Tour Championship this year, Champions Cup next year. So one's really close to us we go to. The tough part is, like, I think D-Glow or Ledgestone would be worth it because they draw a big crowd. We basically, to make it worth it, we need our personalities there. So we need Trevor, me, Connor, Silas, some combination of those at the tournament because that draws traffic to the booth and then it allows us to sell. And so it basically just has to line up. So I think probably next year we'll probably go to like a D-Glow or Ledgestone instead of Music City and just kind of rotate through. Because I think the other thing to factor is right now the easiest way for us to vend is to drive our van. So Jason drives our van to wherever, and Music City is like a 7-hour drive. Once you push to Michigan or Illinois, it gets a little bit longer of a drive. Right now we're talking like 11, 12 hours. I'm not sure exactly, but it gets a little bit longer. And so then we just have to factor, is it actually worth driving all the way out there to vend? Because vending is, once you factor hotels, flights, if we fly in, which a lot of times we do, hotels, flights, the vending fees that you have to pay, all of that stuff, food for employees that are out there, it gets expensive quick, and then you have to do a lot of sales in a short amount of time, and you're dependent on weather. So like this year's Music City wasn't as well attended because the weather sucked, right? And so it's like now you're relying on that, and you just spent thousands of dollars to send someone there. Like, is it all actually worth it? So it's more of a fan engagement thing and less of a way to make money for us. So I think that we can be picky and choosy about different places we do it. I like the model we're doing at Des Moines. So Des Moines, Trevor and I are flying in for the Discmania Challenge. We're doing some collaboration videos with pros. Obviously, we're doing the Creator Challenge with the Pro Tour, but then we will actually be at the Discmania booth. So we'll be at the Discmania booth on Friday and Saturday dropping a disc, collab disc that I don't know when we're going to get to announce it. I actually need to talk to Discmania because it's next week. So I'd really like to push this thing because you're going to want this disc. It's hilarious. It's going to be an iconic Foundation stamp. That's all I can really say about it because I don't know how much is supposed to be behind the scenes, but we're dropping that at the Discmania booth. And we'll actually get a portion of those sales, obviously. And so that we're really excited about, like that model where now our only expense is us showing up, being there. And we are going to the manufacturer's booth and doing a collab drop with them. I really like that model. So that could be a model we could do more because it benefits everyone, right? We drive press to the event. We market. We're going to do a video with some Discmania pros. So that's good for us and good for Discmania. And then we drive traffic to their booth by us being there for, extended or a certain period of time. We drive the traffic we would have driven to Foundation's booth to their booth. Win, win, win all around. We don't have to pay for people to go out to vend. We don't have to take inventory out there, anything like that. I think that that's So that might be something we do more of. And if that works well and other manufacturers are interested in it, then we could be at more Pro Tour events in the future. So we'll see how Des Moines goes next week. But like I said, if you're anywhere near Des Moines and you're on the fence about going, get off the fence and buy your tickets, because A, you're going to be there Thursday to watch the Creator Challenge, but B, you're going to want to be at the Discmania booth for our drop. It's I don't think we'll sell out, so I wouldn't be worried about that because we have a decent bit of them, but it's a fun stamp. It's a lot of fun. So yeah. Jacob said, who settled on the color scheme for the foundation brand? That would be me. Back in 2020, we did a full rebrand, and we went with black and gold. I'm not going to tell you I love it anymore, but I think modern day we do a lot more black and white, like our website, obviously, and stuff like that. I think that looks a little bit cleaner, fits us a little more, and we also do a bunch of spin-offs that are more fun, funky, but the main brand, obviously, is black and gold. Really black, gold, and white are the three. But I did all the branding design. So yeah. Oh, All Business Brad said we do have some Swirl Brody roaches, so we'll get on those on the site here soon. Next year, D-Glow's Worlds as well. Okay, there you go. Maybe next year we'll go D-Glow. What is our team name going to be for the Creator event? Brody and I went back and forth with a bunch of team names here because obviously this is a Pro Tour event. So fine line of what, do we do something cheeky like the PDGA Marshals? And obviously we decided to go against that because, just it felt a little bit too much like people wouldn't get the like joking manner because we're not the ones that get to say it. And so there was a lot of great suggestions, but again, there's going to be people that aren't foundation fans that are watching the stream. And so if we do something that's like said in a snarky or sarcastic tone, like like some people were saying the foundation frontman, which is not how Brody and I would ever present ourselves, but it's like kind of funny. Or like, I forget what they all were, but there was several like that could come across as like cocky, and we don't want it to come across as cocky. So I don't know. We ended up with ham and egg because like, obviously that's what we talk about in doubles all the time. It's like, you got a ham and egg, which basically means when one person's falling behind, the other person's got to pick up the slack. And it's just it's not even a funny name. It's just a name. So that's what we went with for Brody and I's. I'm not crazy about it, but hey, it's fine. It is what it is. Where did the foundation logo inspiration come from? So I got it on my chest right here. Instagram, it's backwards. So essentially, do I have... So the original foundation logo was this script, right? You might have seen. It was just this script, and then originally there was a box around it, and there were two mountains on top. And so then I didn't like that logo because we never used the mountains by themselves. There was no good way to tie it all in. We ended up just kind of using the script foundation word as a word mark more, and I wanted some type of icon. So the two mountains represent... There's kind of two ways to look at it, but both are on the forest skyline, which is where originally we were in Good, which is a little bit farther out in Central Virginia. Forest is where we're currently at, and it's where I was born and raised. And so it's where Foundation was founded. And if you're looking out down the road on the like skyline, there's the Blue Ridge Mountains, and there's two peaks. There's Sharp Top and Flat Top. So really what this looks the most like is the two peaks of Sharp Top, because Sharp Top has a like smaller peak and then a larger peak. But it basically represents those mountains that I see every day when I'm driving to Foundation. So it's just kind of a representation of where we are. So it represents the two peaks of the mountains. And then that's why we had two mountains in our original logo. And then what I was looking for a way to do was basically turn those mountains into an F. And so that's what this is. So this is, if you turn it this way, then you have the F, boop, for Foundation. But obviously this way it's the mountains. So it's the F, the two mountains, and then a lot of people think that the circle's like for a disc or something. It was just because for social media, I think an icon looks better if it has a circle to like fit into social media profile pictures. So I just added that. That's the whole reason that exists, is so that it fits better in social media. And I think it looks better on apparel to have some type of like, I just like a circle more than just the mountains. So yeah, that's the foundation logo. And then our word mark changed into this font here. And so I think it looks a lot cleaner than what we used to have. And now we actually have an icon that can represent foundation. So that's how we ended up there. But yeah, it's if you turn it sideways, it's an F made up of two mountains. If you look at it this way, it apparently looks like Pac-Man with a tongue and fangs. But that's not what I was going for, you know? It is what it is. Okay, let me get Chris said, have I told the story of how I met Paul and how I became a part of Foundation? So I know I've told it on here, but I've never made it, like, again, it's not something that I really think you make a video out of. Basically, Paul was dating his now wife, then girlfriend, Hannah, and she was on the disc golf team at Liberty, which I was also on. And so Paul basically would just come hang out at practice, and him and I became friends. And then he wanted to start a disc golf store. I had the web design experience to build a disc golf store, and that's just kind of how Foundation started. So we were friends for years before Foundation came about. Where was the other question? Oh, Preston said, I know Foundation used to be you and Zach, but how did Trevor start with Foundation? So really the same way. I met Trevor at Liberty on the college disc golf team there. And so Trevor and I were on the same, there's basically different flights, different divisions to college disc golf. We were on the same division. So it was just me, Trevor, Trevor's roommate, Pete, and then my friend, Ryan. Those were the four of us. And so that we played together. I think I met him my junior year. We played together my senior year. Foundation started my junior year. And then Trevor came in. I'll probably make a full story video out of this whole. I don't know if it'll be focused on Trevor's arrival at Foundation or if it'll be focused on Brody buying in, because they both happened around the same time. So basically, Brody bought into Foundation. All of the discs on our website sold out. Every single one. Right? Then me and Zach were filling those orders. This is around the time Zach was about to move to Dallas. So Zach's about to move to Dallas. We're filling the orders. And we needed just more hands on deck, because literally it was during a Brody signing. Every disc on Foundation, and at that time we owned Supreme Flight. Every disc on Foundation and Supreme Flight was gone. We had nothing left. And we had to get all those orders out. So Trevor was staying in town to work like warehouse job in between like school years. So he stayed, and then we were like, he had told us like, hey, if you ever need help, let me know. So we texted him. We're like, hey, can you just help us fill these orders? So Trevor came in and originally started probably around this time 5 years ago, and just filled the orders for us, helped us fill the orders, get the orders out. Then when Zach moved to Dallas, obviously I knew Trevor. He had already offered to help some. He'd already filled some orders, so he kind of knew our process a little bit. So I reached out to him like, hey, would you be interested in basically coming in as our like logistics guy, more or less? Like back then we didn't need a logistics guy, but basically like help me fill the orders. And then I need someone in the podcast and in the content. So could you fill that role? And so his official 5-year anniversary is like the first week of July is when Trevor officially started with us. But that's kind of how Trevor came in. He was just staying in town that summer. And I knew him pretty well. I knew he was interested in disc golf. I knew he was funny and could be good in front of the camera. And so when Zach was moving to Dallas and we needed someone to also be the face of Foundation, we reached out to Trevor. And yeah, that's how Trevor came about. Z Redding said, "What's Trevor's ties to Maryland? I always see him with O's and caps gears." So Trevor's ties to Maryland is that he was born and raised in Pennsylvania, and those are the closest teams because he was closer to the Maryland border, the Baltimore Orioles, and obviously the Caps. So he's not a Philadelphia or Pittsburgh team fan. He's a Maryland, D.C. team fan. Well, except for football, he's a Denver Broncos fan, which I don't actually remember how that came about, but yeah. Brandon said, curious with how, sorry, I was just reading a bunch of questions trying to decide which one to answer. Brandon said, curious with how popular your guys' personality stamps are. Why do you do such limited runs? Is it manufacturer limitation or general logistics? This is a good question. I think a lot of people wonder this because, so the main reason when we first drop them, we never know how they're going to sell because we've had some do good, some do bad. So the first release is always going to be limited because we don't know how popular this is going to be. Then the secondary concern becomes how long will this stamp be around, right? Like how long is the Connor Shaman going to be a thing? Connor stamps will always be a thing, but how long can this disc survive? How long can the Hunter Bird survive, right? Before it just becomes like everyone who wants one has one and it's not going to be popular anymore. So then every sequential order, we typically up the amount a decent bit, but the demand is also raising because obviously we throw them in videos, we talk about them a lot, so on and so forth. And so it's kind of a fine balance where we don't want them just sitting on the shelf because that's just not that's not how we've ever operated. We don't like discs, just cash just sitting on our shelf. So we try to order enough to satisfy the immediate demand. Where like if you really want one, you're gonna get one. But not so much that they water down the market and make it where there is no demand, because then it makes it where we over time can't actually run as many, if that makes sense. So what we do instead is we try to just perfectly meet demand, where if you're on the fringe and you kind of want one, then you'll might be able to get one. But if you really want one and you're on the site when they drop, you're gonna get one. And so what we do is, so we basically just do it that way. So that way there's, there's always demand for it, and allows us over time to actually get more out there versus if we just ran it all at once. And we thought that would be the case, and now we've proven it true because we've been able to sell way more Connor Shamans than if we would have ordered them all at once. So actually more people have them in their hands than if we would have just bought them all that first one, because it creates more of a it creates more of a sense of demand when they're being sold out. So we don't like super limit it. We try to match demand. And I feel like we've done a good job because most of our releases sell out within roughly 24 hours. Some of them go to 40, 48 hours. So so that way it's been a good, again, if you really want one and you're on the site within the first like 1 to 2 hours, that's going to be, you're going to be able to. But if not, and you're just on the fringe, you're going to have to wait for the next release. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, that's kind of why we do it that way. So, all right, we'll take a few more questions here. Who and or how did I get into disc golf? So I started playing disc golf in 2015. I had played like once or twice before. My brother, funny enough, had a PE teacher in middle school that was part of their PE curriculum. They played disc golf. So my brother knew about it, and he played not super consistently. So I'd went out with him maybe once or twice. But 2015, I finished basketball, and every year leading up to that, like basketball was all I cared about as far as like sports or athletics or anything goes. So I finished basketball, and it was the first time where I wasn't like trying to train for the next season or think about anything else. Like before, I had AAU ball, or there was always something with basketball going on. So this year, like my senior year of high school, I finished our basketball season ended. The playoffs were done around like February, March, and I had nothing to do. And so me and my brother and one of my good friends, my brother was like, we were just looking for something to do, and he's like, hey, why don't we go play disc golf? And we had some discs from when Jimmy, my brother, was into it before, so we all went out to Peaksview, and my brother absolutely destroyed me. And so then after that, we just that became what we did. We just would go play, from that February, March to the end of the school year, we played maybe a few times. But then that summer, we became like addicted. We were going and playing like multiple rounds a day the summer before going into college. And then by that fall, I tried out for the Liberty disc golf team, made the team, played my first tournament, like 6 months after getting into the sport maybe, and then learned a lot about playing disc golf on the college disc golf team because I was surrounded by players way better than me, who taught me like actually how to throw it right, all that fun stuff. And that's also where I met pretty much everyone that started Foundation. So yeah, that's how I got into the sport. Paul NC said, do I regret the way you handled Zach leaving publicly? It seemed like you left all the details up for speculation. No. Whenever there's private stuff, you have two roads, right? It's similar to Paul leaving, where whenever there's stuff, which Paul I've told all the details of, people just don't believe you. And I think that's exactly like the Zach thing would have been the exact same way. So first off, we can't really talk about the details because we all signed an NDA, and whether or not that actually is legally binding, who cares? It's more, I gave my word I wouldn't have to talk about all the details, and everyone gave their word, so we just didn't. We haven't, and we never will. And I don't regret it because, I think that it's the best for everyone. Obviously, I think it hurt Foundation slightly. Because it creates speculation. I think it was similar to when Paul left, and because when Paul left, we've been open about this. Again, just people want to speculate, and so like that, you can give all the details till you're blue in the face about whatever, and air out way more than you ever should, and people still will think you're lying because they want to think that whatever they think happened is what happened. And so it's a similar thing when Paul left, where like Paul basically had too much on his plate with the Palm of Beth Foundation and Discraft and everything he had going on. He was very busy. And he came to us, and I'm pretty sure he called the meeting, and we all sat down, me, Paul, and Brody. This is in September, October of the year before Paul left. And he sat down and was basically, he didn't feel like he could contribute as much as Brody and I were contributing. Because Brody at this time lived in Lynchburg, and Foundation was all we did, but Paul couldn't contribute at that same level because he had a lot of other stuff going on. And so we all just sat down and talked through it, and we were trying to figure out, and there were worlds where he could stay in, but he just kind of felt guilty of if I'm staying in and y'all are pulling all the weight, what the heck it doesn't make sense for me. And so that was the decision, was okay, we'll buy Paul out at the end of the year. For tax reasons, it makes the most sense just to do it December 31st, January 1st, that clean break, because that's where our calendar is, and then we don't have to do anything else, right? So decision was made in September. It just was going to happen in December. Then the Paul and Brody stuff, where their friendship happened in November, but none of it became public as far as the Paul leaving Foundation until January when he actually left. But that decision was made in September. And we've all been super clear about that. You can ask anyone. We've told that a bajillion times. And people still think, and they will always think, that there was some giant fallout between everyone and that it was some huge, ugly thing. And so it's at the end of the day, you just got to hold your head high, just tell the truth, do what's right, and whatever is speculation, that's speculation. If everyone else wants to gossip and make up their own ideas of what happened and who did what and how it all went down, that's going to happen. You just got to, who cares, right? Because if not, you're just going to keep having to say the same thing over and over, and that's actually going to make it more speculation than if you just let it be. And so that's what we've done with both of it, because eventually it dies down and people ask about it occasionally, and you can tell them the same thing you always say, and just, here's the truth. If you don't like it, who cares? Because the truth's the truth, and I can't change that. So I don't regret how we handled either one, mainly because it's just like, what do you want me to do? You want me to just air out all the details of private matters publicly? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, this is stuff that if we weren't so public with social media, then this could have happened at Blue Diamond Almonds a bajillion times and no one would know, right? Because there's no faces. But since we have faces to the company, then obviously, you have the questions. So, yeah. All right, we'll go like one more question, and then we'll wrap it all up. Let me try to get more current here. Charles Steele said this. I think you might be the one that recommended this. I've talked to Trevor about this idea because someone recommended it. So I'm assuming since you just brought it up again, it's probably you. Have we ever thought about doing a Manufacturers Cup video series where me and Trevor each bag one company in a bracket style competition? Yes, because you brought it up, or someone brought it up. So I pitched it to Trevor. We have to figure out where it fits. I think it might be something where once Course Conquest is over, whenever that day comes, that could be the next series, because it's kind of a weird. Series are great for YouTube, but you don't want to have like every week is a different series, because like right now we have the break series, we have the monthly match, we have Course Conquest, and then we have like other ones that are like regular videos but aren't series, like the wheels challenges, the Ripped Revenge, Chip Locked, starter sets. Like those aren't series, but we have like 3 big series, and so basically almost one video a week is a series. But if you keep adding that, it just like waters it all down, if that makes sense. So I think that's a series that's kind of on the back burner, where maybe once Course Conquest is over, then we can go into like the manufacturer battle series, because like eventually Course Conquest will be over, right? There's just not enough courses, and the style of the series, we can't really go somewhere else, because then we'd have to make a trip to wherever once a month. But yeah, eventually Course Conquest will be over one of these days. Probably at this rate, who knows? Because obviously you can do the math. I don't think I'm spoiling anything for anyone. We got to Conquest New London at some point, right? So we could be there for 10 years, realistically. So, yeah. All right, that's going to wrap up this week. Lots of great questions still coming in. I do this every Tuesday, so just tune in next week and re-ask your question, and then I'll try to get to it then. But I'm going to wrap it up here. I really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Like I said, if you haven't watched the video on the history of this disc, go check it out, and leave a comment there on what else you want to hear about from Foundation. What's the other moments in Foundation's history you want me to walk you through? It seems like a lot of people are curious on like when each employee became a part of Foundation and how that came to be. I do think a lot of that's interesting, so I might start doing some of those. But there's several, like I've talked about 2022 before on Coffee Break. That whole year, I think that whole year can be a good learning experience for business owners, because it was a huge learning experience for us, and I think that's the year we really became a company, to be honest with you. And so I think that some of that stuff, it's just fun to look back and just kind of show. Because I also think that, the next one I could also do is the basically story of Brody buys in, we sell out of every disc on our site at the basically beginning of COVID. And it created a very chaotic next 2 years. But next year, like the whole rest of 2020 through 2021 was just chaos, because obviously manufacturing slowed and we had no inventory. So it was like, there were literally times, and I could probably find footage of these times, where we were still at our old place that was our warehouse and our like studio all in one. And we had enough shelves in there to maybe hold maybe hold 10,000 discs, 5,000 discs, something like that. I don't know. And we probably had 200 discs in stock. Like there was legitimately nothing in stock. And so that was interesting because then our whole business model was like, whenever we got something in stock, we just sold it out over and over and over and over and over again. And so it was weird, very weird time in foundation history. So maybe I'll talk through that the next one. But appreciate all of you tuning in. Don't forget to check out all the fun releases going on this week at foundationdiscs.com. And I will talk to you again next week.